So I'm in the state of New York right now, and if you haven't seen the news, forest fires in Canada are blowing smoke and ash down into New York and other surrounding states, and the sky is literally orange right now. Like, it's 2 p.m. and the sky looks like this all over New York City, the suburbs, everywhere across the state of New York. And it just goes to show you that our environment is important. And if we continue down this path of not caring about our environment and not caring about climate change, this will become the reality for a lot more people.
Yeah, so, I mean, they do this every single time there's a bad weather event, right? Hurricane Ian, climate change. You can't just do that, right? That's not logical. It's because bad weather has always happened. Wildfires have been around for thousands of years. Hurricanes, all these weather events, they are fairly common, okay? Now, you could argue, perhaps, as they say, that these things are becoming slightly more severe because of climate change. But you don't really know that. You don't really know, hey, if there were no climate change, this would not have happened. There is really no proof of that. But then B, you also don't know to what extent climate change actually affects it. To the reverse, I would point out that, okay, then how do you explain other things, right? So for instance, I grew up in California, and all I heard all my life is, the drought that California was in from the 2010s, right? That was all climate change. The reason California is in a drought is because of climate change. Well, first of all, California has been in droughts before. Many places on Earth, far before fossil fuels, have gone through periods of drought on and off, this and that. But if you want to say, the climate change, whatever it is, okay, well, now I would point this out. So California actually is no longer in a drought for the most part because they had a very rainy winter. So a lot of rain this past winter, they're out of a drought now. So then what do you say to that? Do you say, is climate change over? Do you see how this is totally incoherent? It doesn't actually make a lot of sense. You can't just arbitrarily point to weather events that have always happened, but this is a little bit worse than some of the ones we've seen in the past few decades. Therefore, it must be all because of climate change. I mean, again, maybe that is true to a very marginal degree, but they're basically just screaming at the sky. Like, there's no proof of any of this. They don't really explain any of this, okay? But regardless, I want to address this argument because you're going to hear this with the fires. If there's a bad hurricane, you'll hear it every single time, okay? Let's, for a moment, pretend as if everything you're saying is true. Which is not. I'm not saying it's not true, but it's unproven, right? You haven't really shown or explained or substantiated, hey, the reason why this is happening is because of this X amount of climate change. They just claim, bad weather, it must be climate change, right? But let's for a moment pretend that it is true, that we can quantify that man-made climate change is making these severe weather events slightly more extreme. To that, I would still say that still does not justify your policies. It doesn't. Because consider the alternatives here. So they always say, well, bad weather, that's climate change. You don't like bad weather, you must embrace our policies. But they never actually explain what their policies are. When you look at their policies, their proposal to fix, again, weather events that already would happen but are slightly worse, their solution is to fundamentally upend human life. Their alternative is to make weather events 1% to 2% less bad. We have to not drive our cars, don't eat meat, embrace cancerous synthetic food, live in the pods. In many cases, you look at Europe, basically freeze to death during the winter because you're not allowed to burn gas. Do all of this stuff, fundamentally destroy the entire human way of life, simply in the name of fixing climate change. Consider that alternative for a second, okay? All of that is just so that the hurricanes still happen, but they're 2 to 3% less severe, which again, we don't even know if that would fix the problem, which, let's newsflash, it probably won't, but we simply have a theory. We have a hypothesis that if we totally destroy our entire way of life, the hurricanes that have always happened for thousands of years are going to be slightly not as bad and maybe cause like $100,000, $200,000 less dollars worth of damage. Do you understand how that value exchange doesn't actually make sense, right? And that's why they don't ever actually go into basically, I mean, I hate to use the term virtue signaling, but it really is to a degree true. I don't like that term, but it's very true. That's all that this climate change stuff is, okay? Because they never actually sit down and say, this is what we need to do. It's just, look, bad thing happened. This is because Republicans won't talk about climate change, blah, blah, blah. And when you break down the value exchange, it doesn't make sense. So hot take, right? Let's say it's 100% true that all the crap that you see, the hurricanes, the wildfires, all that stuff, the droughts, All of that is caused by man-made climate change. I would still to that say, I literally don't care. I literally don't care. Because I would rather we as humanity deal with that. And by the way, there are ways to innovate to deal with that, right? Hey, there's a drought. Okay, well, let's figure out a way to better the soil, okay? Or people also act like we don't have all this technology, right? So if there's a drought, okay, well, let's irrigate, let's desalinate, whatever it is, we'll figure out a way to get around it, okay? That's innovation instead of regulation. Understand that? Okay. Hey, there's hurricanes and they're getting worse. Okay, then, let's make sure the levee in Louisiana is stronger. Let's figure out ways to deal with it, mitigate the problem. Okay. Innovation over regulation. That I think, is the solution there. But for you to go around and say, okay, well, are you scared of the bad hurricane that might, kind of be pretty bad, worse than usual? Then you need to totally destroy your way of life. You need to basically live below the standards of a third world country, and again, freeze to death and whatever it is, all because, well, at least the hurricanes aren't as bad. It's silly. It's stupid. Okay. Climate change could be happening 100% the way they claim it is. I would still say your solution to it is stupid. I would still say I would embrace really bad hurricanes here in Florida rather than live your way of life. Because, and like I said, people pretend as if there's no way that humans can innovate. Oh, the weather is slightly more severe? Okay, then we can deal with it. And that really is the solution here, okay? Because there is actually no proof that any of your ideas are going to actually bring down climate change, especially when you consider A, that to a degree there is natural climate change and you don't even know how much of it is man-made, and B, even if it is all man-made, China, India, everywhere else, right? The United States only contributes something like 15% of global emissions. So even if we were to go back to the Stone Age and get rid of all 15% of that, there's still a bunch of the rest of the world polluting, right? So it's all silly. It's all stupid. My point in this is that you cannot control this like you think you can. And let's just be realistic. You can't control it. So the solution is not regulation. It is innovation, right? And that's what I'd say. But, hey guys, Vince Dao here. Hope you enjoyed that clip from the Vince Dao Show. If you did, be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you are new to the channel. And be sure to check out the Vince Dao Show live every weeknight here on this channel at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. It is a great show. Many are saying this. So leave a like, check out our other clips, and be sure to check out the show. Yeah. God bless.